Welcome back, my people, and thanks for rocking with me here on Isrock's Movie Reviews. Today's episode 34, and this week we're going to be celebrating Spider-Man on the release of Spider-Man No Way Home in a few days. And we're going to start where it all began, back in 2002 with Spider-Man, the original movie starring Peter Parker himself, the original, Tobey Maguire. This movie also had Kirsten Dunst, played by Mary Jane. You know, I'm saying everything backwards, but you know what it is. And James Franco, who plays Harry Osborn, and Willem Dafoe, who gives very over-the-top performance as Green Goblin, but nevertheless, very effective in the role. Now, this was the first film in the trilogy which featured Tobey Maguire as the titular hero, as we know, Spider-Man. And he plays, a dorky whiz kid who gained superhuman powers after being bitten by genetically enhanced spider. And this movie, when I was 14 years old, when it first came out, was everything I expected. I expected it to be a little cheesy, a little campy, and a little over the top. And it was all of those, but in a good way. This movie is very rewatchable to this day. I had a lot of fun with it. The original will always have a piece of my heart. But before this movie was even full-fledged on the screen, it took maybe 20, 25 years, man. They tried to get this on the screen for a long time. And when it did come, it was definitely worth it. I think the Spider-Man movie was a very good comic book adaptation that benefits from some great direction by Sam Raimi. This had a wonderful screenplay with real characters, and these actors that I mentioned before, they brought these characters to life. There's no question that there's some flaws with the movie, obviously. But none of them are drastic. They don't take anything away from the story. In fact, I'd argue that the film has actually gotten better with time because of how well written all the characters and all the situations are in the movie. This here is especially true with the Peter Parker character because he's just not your normal nerd or dork turned superhero. And the screenplay really gives him a lot of emotions to play with. And I think you really start to feel for the character and then feel for the problems that come along his way when he's gaining these superpowers. The romance between Mary Jane, they work, I think, extremely well, as does his friendship with Harry in the movie, James Franco's character, and the problems that eventually happen and not only have this love triangle, but the issues of dealing with the main antagonist in this, which is the villain, Green Goblin. I think the director does a good job juggling all of this stuff. And he manages to make sure that the action scenes live up to the expectation of not only the fans, but all fans alike. But at the same time, they never outdo the story or characters. It certainly doesn't hurt that the casting, to me, was perfect. A lot of people questioned in the beginning, who's Tobey Maguire, Up to that point, he was a no-name. Just like Marvel likes to do, they hire these no-names and they become these name brands over time. And the same thing, happened with this movie. I remember this was the last movie I saw in a theater by my house growing up before they closed it down. This was the last movie there, and we all, were amazed, just to see Spider-Man on the screen. It was always Batman, Superman, different remix of characters, but we never got to see Spider-Man on the screen. And this is the movie that basically put, I feel, superhero movies on top, because at this time, it wasn't like now. Now there's a superhero movie every few months. Back then, it was a rarity. I think Kirsten Dunst makes for a good love interest. You know, she brings a certain charm, and she brings out the Mary Jane character as a full-fledged character, you know. A little bit of her backstory in this Spider-Man film. You know, she's living with her dad, single dad. It's just her and her dad. And, you know, he's very abusive verbally. And she has dreams of being a singer and going to Broadway, living in Manhattan. And throughout this trilogy, starting with this first movie, you see how she tries to eventually get there. But the way she's depicted is like she's like your girl next door, your everyday girl who gets caught up in different love triangles, not only with Harry, not only with Peter, but with random guys in school. And she was awesome, you know. She plays through the emotions, you know, her side of anger, plays a good role for the most part. And then you go to Willem Dafoe, who's wonderful, as usual. Has a certain charm about him also. He never has a hard time playing the villain, you know. You know, there's certain scenes where he's over the top, but you can tell he's having fun with the role, you know. He actually campaigned for this role because originally it wasn't supposed to go to him, you know. Sam Raimi didn't see him as the Green Goblin, but he wanted it, and Lord behold, he got it, you know. James Franco also does a very nice job as he rounds out the supporting roles in this. And, you know, Spider-Man contained some of the most greatest action scenes in cinema, mixed in with a lot of human drama that's gonna leave you speechless. You know, it's strong entertainment. This movie, back when I saw it, 2002, left all of us speechless. And especially now with the last movie and the current trilogy, we're gonna see once it's all over how we compare the original with the rest of these other Spider-Man movies. But the original is the one that started it all. This is the one that has the gravitas, and you won't be disappointed. This was definitely a thumbs up when it comes to movie making, cinematography. I love the way they utilized the practical effects in this. Not everything is CGI. Some of the CGI, I feel, doesn't bode well nowadays. But what I like about this movie most was that they used a lot of practical effects. With Spider-Man, you know, when his webbing is coming out, when he's going through the city. Even there was a fight scene where he saves Mary Jane in an alley, and it's raining and it's a little dark. That was really nice to see, the way they utilized him. And, you know, how can we not talk about that upside down kiss, which is iconic, you know? This movie had a lot riding on it, and man, it came through in a big way. This movie also set the record for, at that time, I think making over 100 million on a weekend. You know, this movie was very anticipated, and we got our money's worth, you know? So my rating is 4.5 out of 5. You know, go back, check this movie out, especially before you start watching the new ones, all right? But till then, hit that like button if you like the video, hit that notification bell, and please subscribe. Your boy, Izzy. Peace.